Welcome back to the deep dive. If you're operating, or even just thinking about operating, within any big digital ecosystem, especially one that's moving fast, innovating all the time, growing like crazy, you already know the biggest headache, right? It's information. It's like you're drowning in updates, but at the same time, you can't find the one thing you actually need. It's scattered everywhere.
Yeah, information overload mixed with fragmentation. It's a classic problem. You're trying to figure out where things are going, but the map, it's spread across internal memos, maybe some community chats, social media posts that might be creatively interpreted.
Right, or just outdated docs. It's tough.
And that ambiguity, that lack of clarity, it just kills productivity. Confusion makes you hesitate, and hesitation means you're not moving forward. When a system is scaling as quickly as, say, the ONPASSIVE ecosystem, the OES, you absolutely need a single authoritative source of truth. It goes from being nice to have to totally critical for the whole system's stability, really.
Okay, let's unpack this then. Our focus today is something called ONPASSIVE 16. Now, the materials we've looked at, they don't just call this an update or a newsletter. They frame it as a fundamental operational transformation inside the OES. So our mission today is to dig into how this happened. How did this one communication tool go from being, well, basically a bulletin board,
Pretty passive, yeah.
into what our sources are calling a directional compass and a knowledge hub for founders, affiliates, customers, everyone.
And this deep dive, fundamentally, it's about looking at a really key shift in, let's call it governance, information governance.
Okay.
We're tracing the move away from relying on scattered bits of knowledge where, founders often had to piece things together from webinars, social media, maybe guesswork.
Secondhand sources, basically.
Exactly, to establishing a dedicated central place for the real answers, the official truth. It's actually a big sign of maturity for a platform, treating information governance as seriously as, the core tech itself, like the AI or the cloud infrastructure.
That definitely sets a high bar. We're talking about fixing fundamental friction points, not just patching things up. But let's clarify who we're talking about first. When we say OES users, who really benefits most from this clarity? Because the sources mention founders, affiliates, customers, their needs are different.
That's a really good point. We should probably define those terms, at least for this discussion. So when we talk about the founder today, we're generally talking about the folks most invested in the platform's mechanics, especially the financial side.
The builders, the affiliate marketers.
Exactly. Early adopters, people aiming to generate revenue within the OES. The customer, on the other hand, might just be using a product like OConnect for meetings or OShop for their online store, maybe not even touching the affiliate side.
Got it.
So ONPASSIVE 16, it's absolutely vital for those founders because their success really hinges on understanding how everything works operationally.
Perfect. So let's dive into part one then, addressing the substantive questions. Why was something like ONPASSIVE 16 even necessary? What was the situation before this big shift?
Well, the source material paints a picture of, let's call it controlled chaos. Maybe sometimes not so controlled.
Oh, okay.
Because the OES is global, right? And it's constantly rolling out new products, tweaking financial models. Information was just all over the place, highly fragmented. Founders often felt like they were playing catch-up.
So, like, a team leader holds a webinar explaining a policy change.
Right. But then a social media group is debating that exact same rule, and they've come to a completely different conclusion.
And if you're a founder somewhere else in the world, trying to figure out commission rules based on a recording of a meeting held maybe in the US, the potential for mistakes, for frustration, it's huge.
Immense. And that frustration, it really centered on what the sources call the substantive questions.
Substantive questions. Okay, what does that mean exactly?
These are the big ones, the questions that really shape your confidence in the platform and your decisions about what to do next. This update wasn't just about, how do I report a bug? It was built to tackle the real issues holding people back.
Let's get specific then. What examples did the sources give? These aren't abstract things, are they? They hit right where users live financially.
Precisely. A lot of it comes down to finance and integration. On the money side, how do I actually get my commissions? And crucially, when?
Always the big one.
Always. Then there's status. What does being a most valued customer in MVC, what does that actually mean? What are the real benefits?
Okay.
And operationally, how do these different tools, OConnect, OChat, OWallet, how do they actually work together to help my business, not just individually, but as a system?
I want to push back slightly here, though. if the platform already had ways to communicate, website alerts, emails, that kind of thing, why is moving this inside the OES platform into ONU 16? Why is that a transformation and not just, putting it in a different box?
That's a great question. It gets right to the heart of system governance, actually. The issue wasn't always not getting updates. The real problem was verification and context. So before ONU 16, maybe you got an email about a new KYC rule, Know Your Customer. But that email, it probably didn't have the visual guide you needed or the immediate FAQs answering common questions or, and this is key, the secure link right there to actually do the thing.
Right, so you'd have to leave the email, log into the OES, hunt around for the KYC section, maybe even search online for someone else explaining the new rules.
Exactly. It was inefficient and prone to error. ONU 16 changes that. It goes from being a passive feed to an active, localized knowledge hub. The key difference is that the information is delivered right where you need to act on it, inside the OES.
And it's centralized.
Yeah.
That sounds critical. Every major update policy, financial, product, it's all in one place, delivered securely in real time.
Yes, and the sources really emphasize the functionality boost, too. It's not just text anymore. Now it includes FAQs, detailed explanations, and importantly, visual guides. Walkthrough videos, diagrams, things that make complex stuff, like financial system changes or those KYC procedures, much easier to understand and get right the first time. Reduces user error massively. What's really fascinating here, when you look at it, is the sheer effort involved in building this kind of predictable, clear communication system. It signals that ONPASSIVE realized, okay, our tech is scaling fast, but our operations need to be rock solid too. This investment in bridging that gap between what founders expect and the clarity they actually get using these central multimedia tools, that's probably the clearest sign the ecosystem is maturing, stabilizing fundamentally.
Okay, so that structural clarity is huge. But let's shift to the practical side. How do people actually use this information now to move forward? That brings us to part 2. Directional clarity and founder empowerment. The sources use this term internal GPS, like that.
It's a great analogy, isn't it? Because it directly addresses that anxiety of, okay, what do I do next? Where do I click? It aims to replace that confusion with clear, actionable, step-by-step guidance.
Reducing the friction.
Exactly. Reducing that moment where a user just stops, hesitates, or worse, goes looking for advice somewhere else that might be wrong.
And the level of detail seems key here. ONU 16 acts like that GPS by giving really specific operational directions. Not high-level stuff, but granular task-based guidance so founders can actually get things done.
Yeah, we can break down the types of guidance. For using the products, it's step-by-step instructions, not just here's OConnect, but here's exactly how you start a secure meeting. Here's how you use the AI notes feature. Here's how the live translation works. Really specific stuff.
To stop people underusing the tools they have.
Precisely, and crucially, this clarity extends to the money side, the core financial functions, which, as we said, that's often the biggest source of anxiety.
What specifically?
Clear roadmaps for how the commission systems work. And this is vital, clear, reliable withdrawal timelines.
Timelines are huge.
The sources suggest that before ONU 16, commission payouts could be a bit unpredictable. Maybe funds hit your account 24 hours later, maybe 72 hours later. That creates uncertainty.
Hard to plan around that.
Very. ONU 16 apparently addressed this directly, providing a specific, consistent process window, maybe, say, a guaranteed 48-hour reflection time after a transaction clears. About predictability. It's gold for financial planning and building basic trust.
And what about administrative hurdles, like KYC, Know Your Customer, or the O-Verify procedures? Those can be real roadblocks.
Absolutely. The sources emphasize the guidance there. Before the centralization, maybe your verification submission failed because you were following outdated advice from a chat group.
Right, using the wrong ID format or something.
Exactly. By putting the official guidance, including the exact document requirements, maybe resolution standards for photos, the correct portal link, all inside ONU 16, it ensures fewer people get stuck. One source suggested that clear KYC guidance alone could cut down initial failed submissions by maybe 30, even 40%, just by being precise up front.
Wow. That's efficiency for the platform and less frustration for the user.
Win-win.
And they also use ONU 16 to explain the why behind things, like the system's incentives. For example, becoming a most valued customer, an MVC, making that clear.
Yeah, because without clarity, MVC is just another acronym, right?
Right.
With clear explanations of the benefits, maybe MVCs get early access to new beta products like OPAL or perhaps discounted rates on premium OConnect licenses. It becomes a real goal. If a founder understands the exact path to getting MVC status and the concrete benefits, they're much more likely to focus their efforts strategically.
This access to knowledge. Sources talk about the rise of the knowledge-driven founder. That sounds like more than just getting info. It sounds like a cultural shift.
It really does. Think about it. When information was scattered, power often pooled with those who had the best access or were best at interpreting things, maybe team leaders, early adopters.
The information gatekeepers?
Kind of, yeah. ONU WS16 aims to democratize that knowledge. You don't need to rely on someone else's interpretation anymore. You go straight to the source. That knowledge becomes actionable power for the individual founder. They see the platform's direction directly.
And the community dynamic must change completely then, if everyone's working from the same playbook.
Huge change. Instead of communities spending energy speculating, chasing rumors, debating what some vague update really meant.
Which can be exhausting.
Totally. That energy pivots. It shifts towards action, towards sharing best practices based on the actual verified directions everyone has access to. Implementation strategies, not speculation.
That creates a strong positive feedback loop, doesn't it?
Exactly. Founders get clear info, they succeed faster. Then, because they understand it well, they can teach others effectively. They become, what did the source call them, ambassadors of clarity.
Ambassadors of clarity. I like that.
Yeah, they strengthen the whole ONPASSIVE network from the ground up, making sure accurate information spreads organically based on the official source, not just hearsay.
Okay, moving from operations to the area that gets the most scrutiny, the money. Part 3, financial transparency and building trust. You mentioned substantive questions often revolve around finance.
Absolutely. In any digital platform promising financial opportunity, anxiety peaks around money. New digital wallets, commission structures that might evolve, cross-border transactions. Vagueness is just toxic.
If the platform is fuzzy about when you get paid or what fees apply or how secure things are, trust just vanishes.
Evaporates, yeah. ONU WS16 seems designed specifically to preempt that anxiety, to provide really precise, structured answers to those tough financial questions.
And the detail level sounds quite extensive. Let's start with timelines again. When commissions hit the O-wallet, we touched on it, but nailing down that maybe 48-hour standard instead of a vague 24 to 72, that's a huge trust signal.
It is, but it goes deeper. It's also about the security of withdrawal. ONU WS16 apparently details the steps needed to secure your funds before you withdraw.
Like what?
Well, the sources suggest things like clear instructions on setting up mandatory two-factor authentication for a wallet, or maybe guidance on biometric logins for withdrawing over a certain amount, say $5,000.
Yeah.
That kind of specific security detail. It's vital for making users feel their money is actually safe.
Okay, security is one thing, but transparency on costs is the other big trust breaker, right? Hidden fees.
The worst.
If you see $100 in your wallet but only get $90 out, you need to know why, instantly. What taxes apply, conversion fees, platform fees.
And ONU WS16 aims to pull back the curtain on that, provide clear breakdowns. Okay, here's the platform's processing fee. Here are any jurisdictional taxes we have to collect. Here's the cost for converting currency if it's cross-border.
Taking the guesswork out.
Completely. That's fundamental for keeping people long-term. Founders need to know exactly what to expect financially. No surprises.
The sources also mention explaining the safeguards. Not just saying your money's safe, but explaining how.
Right. Explaining the mechanisms, maybe detailing the escrow services they use or how they comply with specific international anti-money laundering regulations. Knowing the infrastructure behind the protection, that eases a lot of worry. You know, if we connect this financial clarity piece to the bigger picture, it really defines the platform's whole relationship with its users. In today's, frankly, volatile digital economy, financial clarity is the absolute foundation of trust. Providing explicit info on security, fees, timelines, it replaces guessing with knowing. And that shift from guessing to knowing, that's probably the single biggest driver for user loyalty and keeping people engaged long term.
That precision on finance needs to be matched by clarity on the tools themselves. Which takes us to part 4. Tying the ecosystem together product directions. Without that, the OES could just feel like a bunch of cool but separate tools.
That's the challenge for any big tech ecosystem, isn't it? You might get really good at using OConnect for video calls, but completely miss how the data from that could maybe enhance your experience in OShop or flow into O-Wallet. You miss the connections.
The cohesive vision.
Exactly. So ONUWS 16 is acting like the master guide for how it all fits together. The sources specifically mention it covering OConnect, OChat, OPal, OShop, and OWallet. And for each tool, the clarity seems to break down into 4 key areas.
Okay, what are those?
First is purpose. Users need to know not just what a tool is, but why it's there in the ecosystem. What's its role? So for OChat, maybe it's not just messaging, but building relationships in a way that potentially provides marketing insights later. Understanding the why drives better use.
Makes sense. Second
is integration. This is critical.
Yeah.
How does OConnect, the video tool, actually talk to OWallet? ONUW16 might clarify that commissions earned through OConnect, maybe from premium features, get routed and show up automatically in your OWallet ledger. It explains that functional link.
Okay, the plumbing, basically.
Yeah, how the pipes connect. Third, and vital for founders, is monetization potential. How does using this tool actually lead to making money?
Right, the bottom line.
So ONUWS16 might detail how traffic to your OShop site gets tracked and linked to commissionable actions through your OPal account, showing that direct line from usage to income.
That sounds technically complex to explain simply. For instance, how would it explain something like OChat, suggesting things for OShop?
That's where the specificity is key. The sources suggest ONUWS 16 would clarify, for example, that OChat uses AI with user consent, obviously, to understand conversation context.
Right.
And that insight can feed into OShop to help founders suggest really relevant products.
Oh, okay.
But importantly, ONUWS 16 would also explain the privacy rules around that, and the technical bit, maybe API calls that lets aggregated, non-personal data flow between the tools safely for monetization.
Got it. And the last piece?
The final piece is practical support, because even with perfect instructions, things can go wrong. Tech glitches, user errors.
Always happens.
Always. So ONUWS 16 centralizes the support info. Should you use the OChat support bot for this issue, submit a ticket via the main OES portal, or maybe ask the OPal community forum. Clear paths to getting help are essential.
Okay, so by laying out the purpose, integration, monetization, and support for all these tools.
Right. ONUWS 16 helps users see them not as separate apps, but as one integrated system, a cohesive vision. It cuts down the noise and helps founders get the most out of the whole platform.
That structural clarity and integration seem to feed into a bigger idea the company's pushing. Part 5, the culture of transparency and global consistency. The sources make a pretty bold claim here that ONUWS 16 actively promotes a culture of transparency, kind of flipping the script on digital secrecy.
Yeah, that's a strong statement. Historically, let's be honest, many big digital platforms, especially complex ones with algorithms or affiliate models, have kind of benefited from keeping users slightly in the dark. Information asymmetry, right? It lets the platform control the narrative. ONUWS 16, according to these sources, represents a deliberate move away from that. A strategic commitment to radical transparency, putting the user's need for clear operational info first.
And is there evidence for this? How does it actually play out?
Well, the sources point to a few things. Founders apparently now see company directions, strategic plans, policy changes shared openly, often before they're fully implemented. That directness cuts down room for rumors or misinterpretation because it's coming straight from the top.
From the source itself.
Exactly. And furthermore, they explicitly mention that leadership, specifically Ash Mufareh, stays accessible through these official updates in ONUWS 16. That's significant. It shows the leadership isn't just setting direction, but is committed to communicating it clearly, consistently, publicly. It reinforces accountability.
And the impact on the community.
Huge, potentially. This kind of open, direct communication fosters loyalty, deepens trust. It should lead to more community unity because everyone's literally on the same page reading the same verified script. When information flows freely like that, the need for those little closed-off rumor mills or insider groups just diminishes.
Right, the black market for knowledge shrinks.
Good way to put it. And this transparency culture has a massive global impact, too. Think about the challenge of communicating complex financial rules to founders in dozens of countries. Different regulations, languages, time zones.
Logistical nightmare.
Totally. So getting that consistency of messaging across all nations, that's maybe the biggest structural win here. It creates a truly unified ecosystem culture.
The sources had that scenario, right? A founder in Nairobi, one in New Delhi, one in New York, all reading the same update, understanding the same rules simultaneously.
Exactly. That unified message just dissolves so many geographical barriers you typically see in global business. If the message is the same everywhere, the operational experience becomes predictable no matter where you log in from.
And that consistency brings real practical benefits, yeah.
Two big ones, according to the sources. First, it makes onboarding new affiliates or customers way easier anywhere in the world because the training info is standard. Second, it builds international credibility. ONPASSIVE looks like a platform that speaks with one clear, reliable voice to everyone. Global businesses value that predictability.
Especially with regulations varying so much.
Absolutely. You mentioned regulations, think GDPR in the EU versus maybe HIPAA-like data rules in the US for certain products. The platform has to deliver specific, tailored compliance info, but ONU 16 provides the unified framework to do that effectively. It takes the burden off the individual founder.
Which perfectly sets us up for the final section, Part 6, Future-Proofing and Longevity. ONU 16 isn't just about today. The sources frame it as a long-term pillar, something designed to future-proof founders against the inevitable changes in tech.
Yeah, this is the strategic long game. In tech, things always change. New products, evolving financial systems, shifting global rules. It's constant. By building this robust central communication channel now, the platform basically guarantees a way to manage those transitions smoothly.
Preventing confusion from stopping growth during changes.
Exactly. The sources highlight its role in handling future stuff, like new product launches. When a new tool arrives, maybe an AI coding assistant or something for logistics, ONU 16 ensures founders get the directions, the integration guides, the monetization info, right away. Zero lag time and knowledge means faster adoption.
Makes sense.
Same for finance. As the systems expand, maybe adding new payment options for different regions, new bank links, more currencies, the clear answers will flow through this central hub. They're anticipating complexity and building the comms infrastructure to simplify it for users.
And regulations again, that constant global churn.
Right. ONU 16 is positioned to handle that. The platform does the hard work of interpreting complex new rules and then delivers the actionable, what you need to do steps directly to the founders, so they don't have to become experts in international law just to run their business.
You know, this whole structure, this investment, it does raise a bigger question, doesn't it? How does this kind of dedicated upfront investment in transparent, central communication change the actual relationship between a platform and its users?
That's a great synthesis question. It strongly suggests the platform sees its own long-term success as directly tied to how well-informed and operationally clear every single user is. They're actively working to stop complexity becoming a barrier to growth.
That is a powerful idea. So, wrapping this up, what does it all mean for you, the listener, whether you're a founder or just watching the space? ONU 16, clearly, it's positioned as way more than just another update channel. It really signals a maturity, a settling down in the ecosystem's whole approach to governance and communication. It's like the platform moved past that initial scramble of rapid growth.
Yeah.
And it's now saying, okay, we've stabilized, now we communicate with institutional clarity.
Yeah, and we can probably boil down its function into those 4 key roles the sources highlighted. ONU 16 serves as 1, a classroom for learning the system, the tools, the rules. 2, a compass giving clear direction, the best path forward for business goals. 3, a handbook providing that crucial financial and operational clarity, replacing guesswork with certainty.
Okay.
And 4, a guiding light showing the way towards that integrated, cohesive vision for the whole ecosystem.
And this whole shift, the transparency, the clarity, it culminates in what the sources call the kind of mantra for the users, right?
Yeah.
Capturing the movement.
That's right. Rise, reset, refocus.
Explain that breakdown.
Founders are meant to rise with the knowledge they gain, reset their approach using the clear operational directions, and then refocus their energy on building financial freedom within, as the sources put it, this highly transparent ecosystem. It's a compelling narrative built on empowered users.
You know, the lesson here, maybe for any complex system, not just this one, is the sheer value of that kind of centralized, almost radical transparency. When high-stakes information, especially about money and security, is delivered clearly, consistently, straight from the source, it just fundamentally changes how people behave. It boosts trust massively. It turns all that energy people waste on speculating to actual productive confidence. It makes the system actionable, predictable, scalable. And those are really the hallmarks of something built to last.
Couldn't have said it better. Thank you for joining us on The Deep Dive.